Greetings. This is Jeff Weaver. What I wanted to speak to you about today is in reference to the violence that's going on across the country, particularly in the black community in Chicago, here in Philadelphia in 2013. It's been going on for some time now. The school systems across the United States have failed. They've been failing. But now the proof is in the pudding. They're collapsing, just like the levees collapsed in New Orleans. It's beyond the point where people can fudge or pretend that it's going to be okay. We see now that it's failed. What I want to discuss specifically is about young black males and females, but specifically black males, and the whole prison industry, and how we have got to take control over our young sons. Now, there are a lot of folks who use the excuse, well, there are no daddies around. That's true. A lot of black men are in jail, far more disproportionate to those that commit crimes and to white Americans. We know that there's a huge disparity amongst black men who go to jail, and we understand, anyone who is conscious understands that, and we understand the reason for that being is because it's slavery by another name. The United States cannot sustain itself with this capitalistic system without slaves. It has always had slaves since its inception, and prior, before they even established the Constitution, there were slaves here. And in order for it to run, there must be slaves. So the 13th Amendment was abolished, but nevertheless, they found a different way. They switched their hustle up, just like folks do in the street. You know, if the block is hot as far as crack cocaine, they might switch up to weed, or they might find a different way to make money illegally, but the bottom line is they're going to find a way to get it done. So slavery was legally abolished by the 13th Amendment in 1865. But the same 13th Amendment that abolished slavery left a loophole that if blacks, or any, they didn't specify blacks, but that if the only exception is if you were caught or breaking the law, or in violation of the law and were incarcerated, then the same rules or punishment or the same predicament that we found ourselves in slavery could be imposed under those circumstances. So they found ways to incarcerate us, whether it was from spitting on the side of the road or stealing a piece of candy, anything ridiculous. They found a way to continue to incarcerate us and take the incarcerated black folk, and they would contract them out to private industry, which at the end of the day is the same thing. And this was going on right at the end of slavery, and there's nothing has changed now. The music industry is in bed with the prison industry. Modern day rappers, corporate rappers, which is a clear distinction between hip-hop MCs. Corporate rappers who are told by their record labels what type of music they're going to make and produce and market, put out not just the images, not just the music, but the images also of a lifestyle that resembles that of a criminal, and that also mirrors that of a prisoner. And all of this is intentional, and this is documented. Privatized prisons and the whole privatized prison industry and the music use the music industry as their market and promotion. So when you see Lil Wayne and you hear him making buffoonish statements about Emmett Till, it's because Lil Wayne is nothing more than a market rep for the prison industry. And when he got locked up and got out quickly, and so like all these other rappers, they get their hand slapped and they back out because they're in business and in partnership, or at least their master, meaning their record label, is in partnership with the record industry. in the entire music industry. And so at the end of the day, black males end up falling into traps, which brings me to another point. A lot of youngins on the block, the new term is, when they used to call it slinging, now they call it trapping. But they don't realize that when they're out trapping, they're actually being trapped, because the streets in reality are nothing more than holding pens to lure black males onto the block, so that when it's time, when they need more bodies in the prison, they just go out. They know exactly where to find you. So in essence, while brothers think they out on the block trapping, they're actually just being trapped just like mice in a maze. And the streets are nothing more than a maze, right? You have to ask ourselves. And I hear so many brothers say, yeah, man, I'm from the streets, cuz. And they say it with a badge of honor, as if being street gives them a certain prestige or an edge over everybody else. But in reality, if you are really from the streets, and if the streets give you a mentality that makes you superior, you have to ask yourself, why are so many black males from the streets incarcerated? You understand? Like, think about that for a minute. If you are from the streets, in other words, the block that you from, your whole hood, where you from, that's your terrain, that's where you run. So if that's where you run, how is it that so many of us getting caught up? Right? To the animals in the jungle, the animals in the zoo are suckers, because they got caught. So how is it that for human beings who are in the streets and they get locked up, they think that's a badge of honor? That ain't no badge. That means you got caught, which means that where you think is your stomping grounds, your terrain, it ain't your terrain. It's nothing but a trap. The streets are a trap. And furthermore, the streets is nothing more than an illusion. And they are designed. They're actually, the architecture, the way that they are put together is to trap. Specifically, young black males. Hispanics too, but primarily black males. And that's the way that they do. They corral us right into prison. And they know right where to get us. Because who you think brings the drugs in that brothers think that they are selling? Right? This stuff is imported. So if you look at the whole business, while you think you're hustling, you've fallen into the hands of a bigger hustler. And the proof is in the pudding is you look at the population of black males in prison. So while you think you trapping, just think about that. All right? Because in actuality, you're in the trap. The streets, like I said, are an illusion. The jungle never changed. The jungle rules pre-exist the street rules. And the streets are owned by the same people who own the plantations. So these are not your streets. The jungle or wilderness, whatever you want to call it, has been here. And if we don't teach our sons how to survive in this jungle, they are no doubt going to get caught up in the streets. Animals have instincts when they move about in the jungle. They move about in such a way that they are wise, they pay attention, they observe, because they know one false move will get them killed. Right? They can fall into traps, they can get eaten, and they're young. If they die, their young are going to die. Right? But now, if a human being had to have their children walk back and forth in the terrain where carnivorous animals were, they would be petrified daily. Oh my God, I hope my son makes it home. He has to walk through the jungle where the lions and tigers are. Right? But when our kids have to walk home from school every day or go to school, we don't have this same fear, because in this society we think that we're safe. right? Because when man entered into what we call a social contract, and in order for everyone to feel protected and civilized and have all of their property and all of and their well-being secured, man entered a social contract with the agreement that we all have to eat, we all have to drink, and we all need shelter. So if we agree to band together, then we can protect each other from the animals, and we can all take care of each other. But that social contract has been broken because a small group of people have taken the liberty to take way more than their share of the wealth and leave the rest to fend for themselves. So basically, they reneged on the social contract, and that's the reason there's so much violence and so many uprisings around the world, because people have been slighted. The social contract was broken. So the human rights of people have been violated, and when people feel their human rights are being violated, then they rebel, and that's what's going on. But for our kids, our black kids, we have to be more protective and teach them how to survive. For example, in the jungle, if your kids are moving about and have to walk through where wild animals are, they'll learn to look out for the snakes. You watch the ground, you watch the tree branches, because you never know where a snake is going to pop up. When you're on the flatlands, you might think it's a wide open space, but a cheetah could get to you in no time. So you always got to pay attention, right? These are wild animals. But now think about this. Every day we walk in the street with people, right? The people that we move about around that we feel safe with are and then you watch the news, you find out this person has been lured into a trap, raped, murdered. This person is chewing off this person's face. This person's being raped. This one, young kids getting abducted into sex trafficking. All of these things, animals aren't doing that. The most dangerous animal in the jungle is doing that. And the most dangerous animal in the jungle is man. So if we would be afraid for our kids to walk back and forth amongst wild animals, then you would think common sense would tell us that we should have that same apprehension about our children moving about amongst people, because people are more dangerous than animals. And the proof in the pudding is that when you walk outside, you don't see no wild animals out there. Why? Because they're scared of us, right? Animals might come out at night, and when they come out, they looking both ways because they don't want to run into human beings with guns and who are smart enough to play coy like we're their friend, and then when we're not looking, cut their throat, which is what people do to each other, right? So people, if you understand that people are the most dangerous animals on the planet, then, and you wouldn't have your kids move about freely with wild animals, then just think about how you should proceed day to day with your sons. They need to learn how to move about in the wilderness and then apply that to everyday life, right? And to when you move about in what we call the streets in the hood, right? Because if you take these buildings and these paved roads, which are streets, if you remove them, they sit right on top of the jungle. So we still in the wilderness. The jungle ain't going nowhere, right? And in the jungle, only the strong survive, and predators are all over the place. And if the strongest and most powerful animal is man, and a man eats the wild animals, then wake up and realize that the biggest danger that you're going to encounter in life is what will be done to you by other people. And so when our kids are out in the street, they have no business hanging on the block, right? Because if you were hanging in the jungle, in the wilderness, it would be considered stupid. If you know eventually you're going to run into a pack of wolves. So why would we allow our kids to hang on the block when you have packs of dangerous people who are have less mercy than wolves. Wolves are only going to attack when they're hungry. People will attack because they're greedy, because they don't like you, they envious, all kinds of reasons that have nothing to do with just basic survival instincts. People are mean, and people can be very mean. And so our sons have to learn how to perceive danger and how to move about safely in this jungle. I'm not even going to call it the streets because that's a fallacy. It's not even streets. The jungle has not changed and will not change. So teach for young women or women that have sons and their father is not around. You are not weak. Even if you don't have a man, you should try, because you can't understand. It's hard for you to teach a boy how to be a man when you're not one. But if you are a warrior as a woman, you can teach that son how to survive. You can learn survival tactics yourself. And that's fighting tactics. That's cool too. But I'm talking about mentally being sharp, how to perceive danger, how to keep your mouth shut when at the right time, how to speak at the right time and keep your mouth shut. Because in the streets, kids run their mouth and they get punched and sometimes killed, stomped or killed because they run their mouth, because the street rules say that if somebody say something slick, you got to say something back. In the jungle, if you perceive a dangerous situation, pride and ego ain't got nothing about it. It's about getting out that situation with your life. But our boys got a tendency to run their mouth because they trying to prove that they tough, even if it means them dying. Understand? And black women, be careful. Be careful when you talk to and around your sons. If they don't have no father and you don't like their father and you talking reckless about their father and about men, your boys overhear those conversations, and even though they are male, you could very well instill within hatred for men. And when they grow up, they will hate themselves and other black men. And if you are one to fly off and get upset and hostile, remember, if your male child mimics your behavior, he will get punched in the mouth or killed quicker than you will for the same actions. So it's important that we not get caught up into the ills of this society and learn how to groom our children. Because if we don't groom our children, the society is going to seduce them into ways that it's going to lead to their destruction. Now, we have nobody to blame but ourselves. In the garden, if you don't cultivate your garden, weeds will grow. That's just a fact. It's a simple fact of nature. If you want to groom your garden, you have to put time into it. And when you see weeds around your flowers, your precious flowers, you got to pull them up at the roots, right? In order to protect the beauty of your garden. Because you're going to produce either flowers or weeds. And that's just the bottom line. Thank you.